Welcome back to my channel. As we have seen in the previous video that we have created two datasets for the solar panel fault diagnosis, where we have one dataset containing 7 types of fault along with the normal data for limited power mode and another for the maximum power. Once we have created these two datasets, in the next step we'll do some data visualization, dimensionality reduction techniques to get some more information just by seeing the data and how the features are behaving. Okay, so let's proceed. So this is the code. This is the entire Jupyter Notebook file for the data visualization and dimensionality reduction of this dataset. At the first block, we'll import the necessary libraries like pandas, numpy, matplotlib. Then I want to import PCA, which is principal component analysis for dimensionality reduction. There are some other, alright, and this is one another class we need, that is the standard scalar, because when we want to do a PCA, we need to normalize the, uh, we need to bring all the features to a similar range to do the standard. So that's why we need the standard scalar class. Right. At the very first step, we'll import the two dataset we have created, the limited power mode for DF1 and maximum power mode for DF2. You can put your file location here and it will extract the CSV file from there. If I visualize the DF1, this is how the DF1 looks like. Pretty cool. And there is one important thing I would like to say here is there are, among all the features, I'm not going to consider time as my one of the input variable. So this might seem weird because time is always a good indicator when you are doing fault diagnosis, but in this case it's not, because all these faults are introduced artificially. So if I do a simple plotting, I'll do this, I'll plot this time and the index corresponding to this time. Here you can see that the time, the y value shows the time, and the x-axis is just the instances, like from 0 instance, first instance, second instance. So the x-axis is number of instance or the index you can say, and y is the time value. Here you can see that total 7 data set or 7 life cycles are there. That means let's say for the first one, it is for the normal case. It started at 0 second and ended at 14 second. For the second one, it started at 0 second and it ended at 12.5 second. Similarly, it went on. And all the fault introduced here are introduced manually. If a solar panel is running continuously, the fault won't be this instantaneous. And for that occurrence time, here the time second doesn't matter to give it as an input. Instead, all the other parameters like uh, current voltage and other features which defines the characteristics of or the dynamics of the system, they will be more important to find the pattern or recognize the classification pattern for the fault. So that is why I'm not including time as one of my input features for this fault diagnosis task. But when you are doing prognosis or when we want to calculate remaining useful life, then time or the cycle or something like that, the component which gives an age, gives an indication of the age for that particular component, plays a very important role. But for fault detection, time is not that important. In this particular case only I'm saying. Okay, so in the next step, we'll see the distribution of fault in our dataset. So what I did is I plotted one pie chart saying DF1 label. So it will basically, if I just show you, this is the DF1 label, which is just the fault classes. If I just do the value count, it will give me number of instances from each fault class, and I'm just using that to do a pie chart. We can clearly see that our data is not imbalanced. We have similar number of instances for all the fault types, including the normal. It is not an imbalanced data set. If it had been any kind of imbalanced data set, then we had to do some pre-processing. The classes in our data set will be imbalanced, then we need to do some feature engineering in order to make it balanced. Either we can decrease the number of instances for the fault having higher number of class, or we can increase for the other one. So that is something maybe we'll see in some another case. Okay, as you see the distribution, for now our data doesn't have any balance, so we can proceed. The next step, I'm going to show the correlation data. So as we know, here we are doing a classification task So our target variable is a categorical one. But one thing we should need to remember is, right now we have total 13 input features. IPV, this all are 13 input features. So among these 13 input features, we need to see whether some feature has very high correlation among themselves or not. If they have like a very high correlation, like more than 90% or more than 95%, then we can take only one feature from the both having correlation, so that will reduce the curse of dimensionality, as well as we can get a little advantage on processing the data. For the processing, we'll have less time to process the data. Okay, so for that we plotted the figure. We used the Seaborn heat map feature for this one. All right. So as you can see this, okay, I will zoom out a little bit because there are a lot of features. Deep blue represents -1. If it is -1 from deep blue to bright red or bright white, it's 1. So basically we can see that IA is current and it has -0.89 or -0.89 correlation with VA. Similarly, IB has a negative correlation with VB and IC has a negative correlation with VC. Negative correlation, we cannot ignore the effect of all these 3 features along with the voltage features. For now, we'll keep them and see the performance. Once we train some model, then we can eliminate these features and see if the performance increases or decreases. Okay. So in the next step, data visualization, we'll do a pair plot. In pair plot, we'll see the plot of each fault type for every features available in our input set. So this is a huge one, huge pair plot. But yeah, there it's very hard to see any kind of pattern. It is very difficult to see any kind of pattern in this kind of pair plot. So we'll move forward. Maybe if we put more time, like 1 hour, half an hour, studying each plot here individually, then we can get some data. But for now, let's move on. I don't think this is very necessary to do, picking one by one feature by hand. So okay, let's move to the next one. Next, our goal is to do PCA or dimensionality reduction on this particular data set. For that, first I am going to split my data set into 2 parts. This X is my feature, Y is my target, and I am taking a test size of 20%, and I'm taking shuffle equal to 2. That means it will randomly shuffle all the observations. Okay, after I get my data here, X train, X test, Y train, Y test, then I'm doing a standard scaling. What the standard scaling does, it basically takes all the feature for a mean of 0 and standard deviation of 1. So that's what I'm doing. I'm converting my X train value to transform. So this is my scaled value of X train, and I'm using the same scalar value to transform the values inside the X test. This is my transform X test. Alright. So I have total 8,700 examples on my train set and 2,100 examples on my test set. Now let's see, go to the dimensionality reduction using principal component analysis. So to do this, first we'll need to import the PCA class from SLM decomposition. And for now, let's say I want 2 principal components. So this is how I'm going to initialize my PCA class. N components equal to 2, that means it will take only first 2 principal components. Once I fit this on my data, it's already fitted on my train X, my standard scale train data. And now once it is fitted, the PC method is fitted, now I will use that PC method to transform my data set. Alright, so if I show you how the transform looks like, now transform will have only 2 columns. Xtrain had 13 columns, but now as we have taken only 2 principal components, it has projected all these 13 features into only two columns. So this is how our transform looks like. Yeah, and this is very important, the explain variance ratio. So what is this? I'll explain. So when it is projecting all the features into principal components, the first principal component explains 27% of the entire variance of the dataset. Variance, you can compare it something like the data or the information captured inside the entire dataset is kind of variance. In this case, it's not the exact way of putting it, but for a rough estimation, you can understand like that. And the next principal component or the second principal component carries 16.8% of the total variance. If we combine these two, then it's approximately 44%. That means first two principal component combined explains 44% of the variance for the entire data set. But ideally we'll need 85 to 95% variance explained. So suppose my top 5 features are able to explain 95% of the variance. Then I will take only those top 5 features. In that way, I'm able to reduce the cursor dimensionality as well as my processing and training can speed up. So that is the whole idea behind this. So now what will I do? I'll open a for loop, and in that for loop, I'll take my iterator I, which will go from 1 to 13, which is the number of components. When it is 13, that means I'm using all the features inside the data set, so I should get 100% variance. To see this thing in action, let's run this one. So once the PC is initialized, it will fit the training data, then it will transform, and that will my transform data. And I'm using this block of code to show the explained variance ratio by all the principal components in that particular PCA. I just run this one. Okay. So yeah. So for one principal component, I'm getting 27%. For two principal components, I'm getting 44. For three, I'm getting 60. For six principal component, I'm getting 89% of the variance. So we can see that we can use six principal components for our data frame, and we can neglect the rest principal component, as the rest seven principal component combined are giving only 10% of the variance or 10% of the information. So there is one advantage of doing principal component analysis. As you can see, when I am using all the 13 principal components, the variance ratio is 1. Okay. So, but to do the visualization, we can either take the principal components equal to 2 or 3, because after this, like we cannot have a 4D graph to see the data. Okay, so PCA with 2 components visualization. So now we have to visualize the graph. For that, I'll initialize the principal component with the 2 principal components, the PCA with 2 principal components, fit, transform, and then I'm using this transform data, which has only 2 principal components or 2 columns, to make a data frame. So here transform is my data, and I'm naming the column principal component 1 and principal component 2. Then I'm doing a plot for that. Okay. Alright. So this is how the data looks like. We can see that there are some like features going on. Like you can see the F6, the ping one a lot here for some reason. But yeah, it's not very clear. And the same thing now we are going to see in 3D. For 3D, we are going to initialize the PCA with 3 principal components, transform that. So here XPCA now has 3 principal components. That means 3 columns. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a data frame with the 3 principal component 1, 2, and 3 with the data XPCA, which I created here. And I'll append one fault label using the Y-train data that I had before from the train test bed. This data. This data contains all the label information. So this is I'm just doing to do a good plot. Next, I'm using this code. This I took from GitHub from somebody I don't remember even. So you can just copy and paste it. And okay. So if I run this one, okay. Okay. So after running, we can wow, it looks nice. So we can clearly see that there are some group forming. Like there are a green cluster which is F2. Green cluster is F2. There are like the yellow ones are F3. The black ones are F5. So there is some group forming. You can see a clear group forming. That means this principal component is helping us to do with only 3 dimension. We can just group them at particular spaces in the 3 dimension. So that is a good thing. That means we can use some algorithm that will just classify them. Okay. But there is one thing here is this is not a linearly separable curve, as you can see even in the 3 dimension, because you cannot draw a 2D line separating between this cyan one or the green one. So that's why the classifying needs more specificity here. So maybe we need to use some nonlinear or something like a decision tree or random forest, something like that. They will have much better accuracy in this particular type of data set. Okay. Closing this one. So okay, that was all about this video of data visualization for solar fault diagnosis. I'm looking forward to see you guys in the next video. In the next video, we are going to discuss about different different kind of machine learning algorithm. We'll train those on our pre-processed dataset and see their performance, how they're performing, and we'll select the best performing machine learning algorithm, and then we'll do the hyperparameter tuning for that. Okay, so that's it. Bye.